Good morning, crafty friends, and welcome to Create with Kalia. I'm Kalia, and I'm so excited to share this For the Guys card kit from Stampin' Up with you this morning. These card kits are amazing, so let's go ahead and get started. Now that I have my card kit unwrapped, I'm going to open it up and show you what is included in these kits. The first thing that you'll find is a Stampin' Spot, and this kit contains the Mossy Meadow Stampin' Spot. Next, you'll find that the kit includes this really nice stamp set that has all kinds of different sentiments on it. After that, you'll pull out the remainder of the card kit, which is wrapped really nicely in this cellophane wrap. It includes a picture of each of the cards that you're going to make with this particular kit. You'll see that this also includes the instructions and everything else that you're going to need to put this particular card kit together. So let me get this unwrapped and I'll show you everything else that is included in this particular kit in order to put these cards together. The first thing that you'll see is that we have a sheet of the Stampin Dimensionals. Now these are a dimensional element, kind of like foam tape. They are cut into hexagons, which makes them really easy to fit into some of those small nooks and crannies. You also receive a Stampin' block with this particular kit because there is stamping involved. You also receive two different colors of envelopes. Now, I think these envelopes are so cool because they do include a pattern on the inside flap and the inside of the envelope. I love this wood grain on this particular envelope and think that it really carries well with the theme of this particular card kit. Next, you'll find several sheets of die cuts. The first stack match one of the cards that you'll be making with this card kit, and as you can see, you'll be making 5 of that particular card. These die cut sheets are really nice. Stampin' Up has cut through them very well, so they're very easy to pop out of these sheets, as you'll see later. You also receive some foiled die cuts with this particular kit. These die cuts are the banner elements that go on each of the separate cards. You'll also find a sheet of foiled die cuts that are specific for one of the cards. Again, they punch out very easily. Then you'll find the sheets that make up the background for one of the 2 cards that we'll be making with this kit. You'll see that they're printed only on one side. Next, we have our pre-cut card bases. These are colored on one side and white on the other. And you'll see that they have already been pre-scored to make them easy to fold. The stamp set that's included with this kit really is an all-purpose stamp set. You'll see that it has a lot of different sentiments that can be used for a variety of different cards. We've got separate stamps that say happy, Father's Day, birthday, anniversary, thank you, to you, Dad. This set also includes the men in our life who we don't normally see a stamp for, such as nephew, son, grandson, brother, uncle, and grandpa. So I think that this set is really an all-purpose set that will be used a lot out of my stash. As we continue looking through the card kit, we have more die cuts. We have another set of the foiled die cuts. And last, we have some little glue dots that we can use while putting together this card kit. Now, these are very similar to any other glue dot that you may have used, and they do have the little protector sheet on top of them. You do need to be careful with these as they are a little bit delicate and they do slide pretty easily off the carrier sheet. As we pull off the remainder of the packaging for this kit, you'll see that the sheet that has the cards that are included also doubles as the instruction sheet. On the back, we have the Get Started, which shows us all of the kit components for this particular kit. It also has the coordinating Stampin' Up colors listed on the sheet, along with a QR code that you can use to learn more about the basics of stamping if you're unfamiliar with how to do so. As we open the pamphlet up, we'll see the instructions on how to assemble both of the cards that are included in this particular kit. You'll see that both cards are listed at the top of the sheet along with the supplies that you'll need to create each card. Below, you'll see card number 1 and all of the steps that are included for that card. Then you'll see card number 2 and all of the pieces and steps that are required to make that card. On the right hand side, you'll see that there is a measuring tape included in the instruction booklet as well that includes both inches and centimeters, making this a truly all-in-one card kit. So now that I've introduced you to the contents of the card kit, let's get started on making these cards. You'll see that the first thing I've done is laid out all of the pieces and die cuts that I'm going to need in order to make the first card. The card bases are already pre-scored, making them very easy to fold, but I do like to take my bone folder and still make that crease really sharp in order to make sure that the cards fit well inside of the envelope. Next, we'll pull out the pattern piece of paper and attach that to the card base using some of the glue dots. Remember that the glue dots do have a little protector sheet on top of them. I did find it a little bit hard to work with the glue dots on this sheet, and I did find that some of them either slid off really easily or some of them did not want to slide off at all. And so instead what I had to do was to peel them off and then stick them directly onto the pattern piece of paper. You could also accomplish this by using a piercing tool or some other type of tool to move the glue dots from your carrier sheet onto your paper. As you'll see, the instructions pointed out that the glue dot should be on the 4 corners of the pattern piece of paper, and then we're able to just glue that straight onto the card base. Most of the time when I make cards, I just eyeball placement to try to make sure that it's even. But if you're concerned about it, you can either use a Versamat like I'm using in the background, or you can use your ruler or a T-square ruler to make sure that your card is even and exactly where you want it placed on your card front. And as you'll see, I did have mine a little bit over too far to the right, but I'm okay with that. The next step in our instructions is to take our foil die cuts and to work on stamping on those. For the first card, I ended up stamping the sentiment exactly as the pattern had, with a thank you on the white banner and the burst and for all you do on the brown foiled shield. Just like we were used to with Close to My Heart stamps, I'm going to put the stamp down on my Versamat, then I'm going to use my block to actually pick it up. I'm also going to season it with a little bit of the oils from my arm to make sure that it stamps cleanly. Then I'll also use a scratch piece of paper to practice stamping on, just to make sure that I'm going to get full coverage off of my stamp. So here I am inking up my stamp, and then I'm going to stamp off on a scratch piece of paper just to make sure that I'm getting the full coverage on the stamp that I expect, to make sure that there's no manufacturing residue still left on the stamp. And I found that there was a little piece of fiber from the stamp pad on my stamp when I did this practice stamp that you could see in the image. So I'm using my pair of scissors to get that little piece of fiber off of the stamp, and then I'm going to ink back up and try again just to make sure that the stamped image comes out exactly the way that I want it to. At this point, I'm also going to pull in my Stampin Pierce Mat to make sure that I give my stamped image a little bit of cushion underneath it as I'm stamping. This will help make sure that my stamped image is as crisp and clean as possible. I also let my stamp sit on the paper for a moment to help the ink soak in, which also helps make my image complete and crisp. If you're interested in the Stampin Pierce Mat, it is available on my website, and I'll link it below in the description of this video, along with the kit and any other supplies that I used while putting this kit together. Now, as you can see, I let that sit for just a moment to soak in, and now I have ended up with a really nice, crisp, clean image that I'm happy with. I'm going to clean off the stamp using my stamp chamois, and then I'll put that back on the carrier sheet and grab off the burst stamp. The next instruction is for me to take the foiled shield die cut and use the burst and for all you do and stamp those directly onto the shield. We'll then take the thank you that we stamped onto the banner element and attach that to the front of the die cut shield. Before I stamp, I'm going to take the banner element and I'm going to fold that on the pre-scored lines. You'll see that the instructions that show how you fold are included on the instruction booklet. Additionally, there are 2 score lines for each of the banner elements that show you exactly where you need to fold them. Part of the reason that I wanted to fold the banner element first is that I want to be able to put it onto the shield element and give myself a better idea of where exactly I want to place that, and therefore where I need to stamp the burst and for all you do, so that I get my spacing correct. As you can see, I took the banner element back off as I'm getting prepared to stamp. I didn't want the banner element to get in the way of my stamp or to accidentally get smeared, but I have an idea of where the placement should be. Again, I stamp off on my scratch piece of paper to make sure that my image is looking good, and then I'm ready to go ahead and stamp directly onto the shield element. And I can see I have a little bit of a smear on my stamp, so I went ahead and inked up just a little bit more so that I can definitely get the nice crisp and clear image that I'm looking for on the burst. And there we go, looking beautiful. Now I check again to make sure that my banner element looks how I want it to look and where I'll need to place the "for all you do" sentiment. I wipe the stamp off with my stamp chamois, and then I can move on to stamping the next element. Next, I'm going to take the stamp "for all you do" and I'm going to stamp that underneath the banner element. And again, I'm just taking my time to line up and kind of eyeball where it is that I want to place that stamp, remove the banner element, put my stamp on my stamp block, season to remove any manufacturing residue, and go ahead and ink up my stamp. I'll stamp off again on my scratch piece of paper to make sure that the image looks good. And then I'm ready to stamp on the actual shield element. And again, I could see that my stamp wasn't fully covered, so I just inked up a little bit more and stamped that onto the shield element. It was pretty easy to line this stamp up because I was able to see where the words were going to end and where I didn't want them to come off of the shield element. Again, I cleaned my stamp off with my stamp chamois, and now I'm able to peel that off and put it right back onto the carrier sheet. At this point, we're done with stamping, so I'm going to put the Stampin' Spot away, and I'm going to, again, just double check my work. Perfect. I'm happy with how that looks. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the Stampin' Dimensionals and we're going to put them onto the back of the banner piece and then attach that to the shield element. Stampin' Dimensionals are a self-adhesive foam mount element, so they do give you some height on your projects and allow you to add some dimension. As I said before, they are cut into a hexagon shape, so that makes it really nice to be able to fit them into some of these areas that have corners as opposed to the way that a round foam dot would fit. The kit does contain all of the dimensionals that you need in order to make the included projects, and the instructions show you exactly where you should place those dimensionals on your projects in order to make sure that you have enough. The Stampin' Dimensionals are also sold in packs of 300. They are sold in an individual pack, and I will link that below in the description of this video as well. So here I'm ready to attach my banner element to my shield element. Then I can peel off the backing off of the shield element, and I'm ready to attach that to my card front. And here we go, ready to attach it. And again, I'm just going to double check where it shows me on the instructions I should place that, and then just eyeball it. I do get a little off kilter here, so I'm just going to peel it back up quickly and reposition. And here we go. Looks good. And now I can press that down. And that is my first card complete. I'm really pleased with how these cards look. It says, "Thank you for all you do." We have a little bit of dimension, which makes the card a little bit more interesting. And even though this is considered a masculine card kit, this is definitely a card that I could send out to anybody. It definitely has kind of a woodsy vibe. It's got this beautiful gray, green, and kind of aqua plaid on the bottom of the pattern piece and this beautiful wood grain on the top. That plaid is carried through onto the flap of the envelope. And as you can see, I fold my envelope flap down and there is adhesive on the envelope flap and it fits perfectly inside. And this is ready to go out in the mail. So now I'm going to clear up my space and I'm going to start working on the second card included in this card kit. The second card included in the kit does have several die cuts that need to be glued together to get started. So I'll do that part first, and then I'll be able to go ahead and stamp, fold my banner element, stamp on that, attach my banner to my shield element, and then attach to the front of the card, just like we did in the previous one. I'm going to start with punching out the die cuts out of the die cut sheet. And as you'll see, they've been die cut really, really well, so it's very easy to punch these pieces out. You can also see that the colors of the die cuts coordinate perfectly with the instructions that were included so that you know which piece is which. When it comes to assembling, you will want to pay attention to the instructions that are on the bottom third of the instruction pamphlet. You'll see that it shows you which die cuts you're going to be working with first, and does include a colored diagram of the die cuts to help you figure out the order in which you need to place them. The lightest gray is also the tallest die cut, and that will go at the back. The medium gray is the next die cut and goes just in front of the light gray. The teal piece attaches to the front of the darker gray. The dark green tree outline is the final piece, and that attaches to the front of the teal piece. I started by assembling my die cuts first and then placing them onto the card base after they had been completely assembled. I started by putting the light gray piece down on my mat, then attached the medium gray piece to the front of that using my glue dots. I then placed the teal piece on the front of the medium gray, and finally placed the green tree line on the teal piece. As the instructions show, one glue dot should go on each corner of each of the die cuts. And here's where I actually start struggling a little bit with the glue dots that are on the carrier sheet. So you'll see that I pull my scissors out here in just a moment to start helping me get those glue dots off. I've also increased the speed of the video at this point since the process is very similar to the first card that we made. We'll be attaching the glue dots, then stamping, and double checking our placement of the banner element on the shield element. Then we'll attach the Stampin Dimensionals, and finally we'll attach the assembled die cuts to the front of our card. I hope that you're enjoying this video, and if you are, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you'll be alerted when I do post new content. Also hit that thumbs up button, and that will help other crafters just like you find this video. You'll see that I put together the die cuts and then lined them up right along the edge of the card in order to make sure that everything was lined up perfectly on my card front. I then moved on to stamping the banner element. You'll see that I did change up and use the birthday stamp rather than the anniversary stamp that was called for in the original kit. I send out a lot more birthday cards than I do anniversary cards, and always seem to need more masculine themed birthday cards or woodsy themed birthday cards. So I figured that this would be the perfect opportunity to change up the sentiment and make something that for me is going to be more likely to be sent out. That's one of the reasons that I love this kit as well, is the versatility. You don't have to follow along exactly with what the directions say, and this is an opportunity to make the card kit your own so that you can make cards that you know that you will use. I also wanted to talk for a few minutes about these kits that Stampin' Up! Carries. They are different than the Paper Pumpkin subscription, which you may have also heard about and which I will be doing another video on as well. These differ from Paper Pumpkin in that these kits are always carried on the website as long as they are available. Kits are released several times per year and come in a variety of different themes. Sometimes it's a card kit, sometimes it's a project, sometimes it might be something else. The card kits are nice because they do contain everything that you'll need in order to assemble and complete the project. They include card bases, die cuts, a stamp set exclusive to that kit if one is required, a Stampin' Block, Stampin' Spot, and coordinating envelopes. And now we have our second card completed. Here they both are together. This really was a fun project to put together. It went so quickly, and I hope that you'll be inspired to check out one of the card kits on my website as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and craft on.